Hey guys, Jim Downs at Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and this is number 4. Let's call it a wrap up. I had a lot of positive comments and suggestions and adds to those 3 videos that we did. So let's do a wrap up, and I can bring those things up and talk about some stuff that I missed and stuff like that. All right. So that's what we're going to do today here. We're going to break. We're going to go back out and do a little bit hands-on. But before we do that, I want to cover some subjects, some topics that you guys brought up. Yeah, this is a project you do at the shop, at the house before you leave, or when you go on a trip and you notice play, you check it out. If you have play, you need to do something before you get on the highway. This is not something because you got parts and different things like that. You don't want to do that, okay? I talked about Napa, and Napa does not have this part. They cannot help you. They cannot help you with the boot. Currently, the boots are available with Jeff Serum in Okeechobee or Applied GMC. If you need their numbers, give me a call. I'll get you hooked up with them. Jeff also carries the slip boot. I talked to him. So if you want the slip boot and the CV boot, now the slip boot wasn't original, but I feel keeping water and nasty stuff away from that really important slip shaft, I think is a good thing. Okay. In every one of the episodes, I talked about the cheater. I may have gone a little overboard with it, but you can see how you can carry a set of stubbies, and you could use the stubbies, but if you really need to get into it, or you need a full-size wrench, you can use any boxed-in wrench to grab the open end of the other one, and it opens. At the end there, I had such a hard time tightening, because I always use that cheater for opening. You put it in one bar. To close it, you put it in the other one, and I was having a hard time. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube, or it gets you upside down, and I'm left-handed, so that kind of messes it up anyway. So it's not a big deal, but having those stubbies, full metric and standard, and those were Harbor Freight, it's not a big deal. Okay, in a minute we're going to go outside, and I'm going to show you. One thing I talked about on the first episode was the water getting into the upper CV shaft, and it does it through that little groove where the pinch bar. You got a pinch that goes like this. Well, right there in the middle where it pinches, there's a little hole right there. That's where the water gets in. So if you have water in your CV boot, that's just about the only place you could go in. And if you didn't put some sealant on it, well, Bob's your uncle. All right. So come on out. I'm going to show you about this, and then we'll come back in and we'll go through some more things. Okay. All right. Come on. All right. So here we are. This is Primachex Ultra Gray. All right. And it's silicone. It's an RTV. It's a high temperature range RTV that has adhesion and seal qualities. Use it to glue on water pumps and stuff like that. It's a pretty good stuff. Now, come on in here. On the steering shaft here, we were talking about a little crack right there where this pinch bar pulls it together. There's a small crack right there. So what you want to do, you want to take some Permatex and you want to squirt it up in there. You see, I cut the end of it like that. You just squirt it up in there. What you're doing is you're filling a small hole between the shaft and right in there. If you can get a picture on that. All right? I talked about this in the first video, but I didn't talk about it anymore. This is very important, because if you don't, this boot will fill up with water. It has grease in there, but it fills up with water and there's no drain on it, so that's a problem. Right? And also in that last video, you saw me working hard with this thing. It's not that hard. You just get it up in the groove. That holds it up in there, and then you put the tie wrap on it, and it's good to go. All right? All All right, so I wanted to come out and show you that. So I would always carry some Permatex with you. You never know. Okay. All right. Well, look, let's go on back up inside, and let's go over some more stuff. Come on. Okay. I'm glad that didn't take long. It's hot out there. Permatex. All right. So another thing on the first video that I talked about was the mass bearing, the lower steering column mass bearing. Now, when you've got the steering shaft off, that mass bearing will fall right out. There's a clip on it, and it drops down. Had a friend, ranch hand, call, and he did that and had a bunch of play in it. All right, so I hooked him up with Applied. He was on the West Coast. They have a whole kit that has everything in it. So I didn't talk about that going through it. I just did it in the beginning. So when that steering shaft is down and you have play in there, you want to replace that top mass bearing, right? The CV comment was made at what if you want to take the CV apart? Well, if you do, I did a video about how to align the whole thing. And remember, the steering shaft, you can put it in one of four ways, okay? Because it slips. On the CV, you've got 6 bolts. So you could put it in any one of 6 positions, okay? That's why if you are going to take it out and you really want to flush it out and all that, or yours is bad and somehow you found another one, which, by the way, that upper CV was used by Volvo for a while in one of their steering shaft assemblies. So there are a few of them around, and they can be rebuilt. Jeff Serum has them rebuilt. But if you pull that out, mark where it is so you can clock it in the right place. If you don't, your steering wheel will be off, right? So if you do want to pull it out and do it that way, that's fine. I don't mind. When we're lubing that upper CV, if you notice, remember I said that I like this graphite grease that I have in there? Well, I didn't have any more of that grease. So I added some molybdenum grease, tongue twister, to the graphite grease and put it back in. Normally what you would do, and the comment was right, you'd flush that out, run it to a parts cleaner, clean all the old grease out because it's contamination and all that. Mine wasn't contaminated because I put the boot on and I put it on properly and no water got in. Okay. But if your grease looks nasty or something, you want to flush all the grease out. Okay. Now, when you do that and you move it, it'll bind. It's riding in grease. So you really, really need to have the grease in there. So when you clean it all out and it seems like it binds up something, slap some grease in. And how do you slap the grease in? Remember how Granddaddy told you how to hand pack bearings? Same thing, brother. Get some grease and you just hand pack it in there. You push it all in there. It might even come out that little slot we were talking about in the top. But you want to pack it tight so all the grease gets around all the balls and the cages and stuff, so it's very loose. The grease, you want to use a synthetic grease. It won't mix with water, because if water did get in there, we don't want it to just hang out on the bearing surfaces and stuff like that. Okay. Yes, there are torque specifications for everything, and yes, bolts need to be torqued to their proper spec. And yes, I'll bet you can go to the service manual and you'll see a torque specification. All right. Well, I'm a Southern gentleman, and there's torque and there's redneck torque. Regular torque, you've got a bolt, a smaller bolt that's maybe a grade 5 or maybe a grade 8, but you get it tight and that's tight. Redneck tight is you grab it and give it a good hug. Regular tight's probably 35 to 50 pounds. Redneck tight could be 50 to 75 to 100 pounds of pressure. In the instance of that bolt in the bottom universal going into the gearbox, if there's any movement in there, I don't care what the specification is on your torque wrench, but it ain't tight enough. We used to break grade 8 bolts trying to get that thing tight enough. So it has to be tight enough to not move. So that's the specification on that sucker. And the top one now, it just needs to go in there. Now, if you can move it, that's still not tight enough. But if you give it a good redneck tight, it's not going to break any bolts. It's going to be tight enough and probably stay. So if you want to be accurate and you're above the Mason-Dixon line, check out the pounds of pressure on all those. But that's kind of how I've done it, and I think that's the way to go. Normally, flush the upper CV. You want to lube it, hand pack it. Another thing that I did not talk about. Remember, I talked about all the tools I brought with me. Okay, didn't talk about any of the supplies. I talked about the crimper. Well, you've got to have a selection of crimps, right? We did talk about the tape, but you need some extra hose, 3/8 and 5/16 hose, some clamps, section of screws. You don't know what's going to happen. While I was out there in Utah, the the closet back, I had to go in there to fix a water leak, and the closet back just really fell apart. So I bought a jigsaw and a piece of plywood, and while I was in the RV park, I reinforced the closet. You know, I wish I could have found some cedar, but I guess they don't like cedar in Utah or something. I couldn't find any. But I bought a jigsaw, but I did not bring that with me. You've got to have screws and things to go with all that other stuff. Had a comment about the compressor that I had behind me. What was that? Yeah. That's an old compressor that was given to me. I got it working, then I added another set of tanks because it was a small one. The compressor is a big one lung, probably built in the 70s, a real old cast compressor. I was really happy to get it. So I ended up putting tanks together, putting on a roller cart, and that's my compressor. But it's good to have air at your shop, okay? Even if it's not the best, but I can do small shots with it. So that's what that thing was. When you're on the road, you want to have one of those 12-volt compressors with you to pump up the tires. You're not going to run any air tools or anything like that. And really, air tools are more for a shop. You get on the road and air tools, if you've got to use an air tool, you should have done that before you left. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. Remember I talked about my granddad's socket set. Well, that socket set is a 1/4-inch drive. For small things, it's got extensions and stuff. All the other sockets I showed you, those are all 3/8 drive. Okay, I didn't carry any 1/2-inch drive things with me. I carried a full set of sockets, metric and standard, on 3/8-inch drive, and I had a full set of standards in 1/4-inch drive. Okay, so just to get that clear, because some folks were asking about that. Right. Tell you what, hold on one second. We'll be right back. I want to go get some part numbers for you. Don't go away. All right, I'm back. Had a question. Several people ask about that Borgeson steering shaft. All right. You've seen a lot on Facebook. Oh, that's terrible. It's good. It's this and that. Here's the deal. Eventually, the steering shafts that we have will be gone. Jeff down in Okeechobee has squirreled some away, and if you really, really need one, give Jeff a call. And I'm sure that Applied has an option too. But eventually, those ending inventory parts will go away. And if we did not have something to replace it, motorhomes would be scrapped or put in a museum. So specific parts like this are really important to be able to update, to have things that are off shelf that we can fix our coach with. And that's what this Borgeson steering shaft is. So if you go on the internet, again, the internet is where we look at everything. Go to Google and hit Borgeson suspension. When you go to their website, check out their website, read about what they do, read about how their business is. It came out of the hot rod people, and they're taking this and putting that in it and making all kinds of things. So the way that you can adapt the Chevy to a Ford or whatever is at that steering shaft, right? So that's what they do. That's their business, and they're pretty good at it, right? Now, when you go to Borgeson, here are the parts. There's 3 components you're going to need to pick up. There is some modification to those parts, and if you're, if you want to get involved and you want to do it, I'm going to give you the pieces. If I believe that Applied, and probably as the steering shafts go away, Serum will carry this. And I'm not trying to take any business from them because it does have to be modified. And if you just like to get one, give those boys a call because they'll have them available for you. Right? At Borgeson, you want to get, the first part is a 1-inch 48 spline by 3/4 double D. That's the top. Their part number is 014349. Okay, the bottom universal is a 1-inch D, 13/16 inch 36 spline. Their part number is 015240. And then the telescopic shaft. Now that's going to have to be cut to length. Their part number is 450024. Right? Or, like I said, you could go to one of the specific specialty dealers, and they'll have it for you. It's not about the price as much as there is something available. Okay, that's the important thing. All right. Yes. My steering column moves. It does not lock in. Remember when I talked about turning the key off and locking the wheel? Well, when I popped off somebody's real smart. They're real, they're paying attention. When I popped off the steering shaft, my steering column moved. Wait a minute, it's supposed to be locked in. Yeah, somebody's sharp. My steering column does not lock in. Also, I don't have a neutral safety switch. You know how the plumber's pipe always leak in the mechanic's car, you can never drive it? Well, so when you lock your wheel in, it will stay where you want it to stay, and it'll be much easier to line it back up. You're not going to have to move it the way I did. So I appreciate somebody bringing that up. That was a pretty good one. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Yeah. When I was putting that thing in there, it would slip on the spines 1 tooth off. But when you go to put the bolt in, the bolt won't go in. It won't go in. Some people force it, hammer it. That means that you're off 1 tooth. If you get it in there and the bolt won't go in, take it down and move it 1 spline and put it back in. See, that's why putting that tie wrap on before you slip it in. If you get it in the wrong place, you might need to tap it with a tank hammer. And if you do that with the rubber, it'll just pop a hole in the rubber. Okay, that's the reason we do the tie wrap on the upper CV boot dead last. All right. Yeah. Hang on. I wrote down. Yeah, this is not a script, but I had to write down. There were so many good comments and things. I had to write them down. So. Let's see. If you are concerned, like if your steering wheel is off and you're concerned, or say it pulls to the left or right, or it wanders back and forth, all right? I did a video on how to align this entire steering column to steering shaft to gearbox, get the gearbox lined on top dead. If it pulls or it drives strange, go review that video. Go look at that video, because over the years, people have put those steering shafts in different ways and clocked the steering wheel and got them all over the place. So if you, I know that you'd love to, it doesn't drive well, I want to take it someplace and pay some guy some money and he's going to wave his hand over it and it'll be done. I wish it was that way. But no mechanic will know the relationship of that steering column, that steering shaft, and that gearbox. They won't know that. So I would, if you have any questions at all, go check that video out, because I made it, man, almost a year ago. But it really shows you the whole relationship. And so how do you find it? On the Patreon and on the YouTube page, there's categories, right? go to those categories. I'm trying to clean it up more and trying to make it more useful. But the whole idea of that is I'm trying to put like video that's about the cruise control. Anything having to do with the cruise control will be together. Anything having to do with front suspension or brakes or whatever, I'm trying to categorize these things to give you a place to try to research and to find some of this stuff. So try to use that. And while you're in there, there are a lot of videos in there. If you're new to this world and you're wanting to pick up as much as you can about these, go check out our database. The whole idea of Motorhome Rehab Ranch is to slowly start building a video database of information so you've got some place to go, and everybody has a place to go. I want it open source. I don't want it locked away to us ranch hands, because that's not what the ranch hand thing's for. The ranch hand part of all of this is that you and I can interact. You can call me. We can talk about things. It's a first person thing, right? Also, if you have a question or something, I can do videos on it. I can show you how to do things. The whole idea of the ranch hand is you're helping me. You're also kind of mini stewards trying to help me build this database. And each one of these videos that we do every week or every couple of days or whatever it is goes into the database. I know I strung out the 3 and now 4 episodes of this the steering shaft a little bit, but the idea there was when we're done, I didn't want to create so much anticipation that gets you to, oh, when's the next one? That's not what it was about. But when they're all done and they're all in categories in the series and it's in suspension, now it's always there and you'll be able to look at it. That's the intent of Motorhome Rehab Ranch. We want to find a way to make these videos, to get input, to find out all of this stuff that people want to know. So when these young guys get in here and want to keep this motorhome going, which we all want, there's some information. Okay? That's what this whole mess is about. All right? So I appreciate you helping me with that. Again, the comments. Now, one of the things, I'm going to do another video here shortly, but one of the things I want to talk about right now, there are many ways that comments are hitting me all at the same time. And I'm having a difficult time trying to find out where they all are. Okay? So if you're doing a comment and I've commented back to you, that's probably an indication I've found you. Most of the comments that I can answer are on the Patreon site, on comments on the Patreon site, comments on the YouTube site, which until recently I didn't know was there. So if you made a comment and you asked me a question, I didn't come back, I didn't see the comment. I'm sorry. All right. But I get comments on texting, which is okay. That's with me. Message is not quite as good. I don't go there quite as much. So if we could get it where you comment on Patreon, on YouTube, or to text me or call me, that's the best way that you can come to me and you can give me input and things like that. That's one of the problems that I have. So let's see what we can do on that. All right. Well, look. It was a great opportunity to do 3 videos on the steering shaft and get comments back from you, and then I could throw those comments back out. That was great. I can't remember everything at one time. I appreciate you coming back to me with things, and I think that other series that we're going to do a wrap-up last video as well. Okay? Well, look, thanks for the time. I hope there was something here that was interesting. If it was, please hit like. Hit like on YouTube and Patreon. YouTube helps me, but also Patreon. And if you're looking at YouTube, that's great. Comment me where I told you, and thank you for your help. If you want to be a ranch hand, they can tell you how to do that, and I appreciate the support. If you have the extra money to be able to support this, a lot of people don't, and I appreciate that, and I'm happy to. I want to help them too. But if you do have the financial ability to help this, and you feel that it is something that is helping you and other people, support me. It's not the fact that you're going to get anything more for it. You're just supporting the community, right? And supporting me do more of this. Well, look, thanks again for your time, And we'll see you next time. I wanted to throw out a shout to my new camera person, my wife, Janie. Say hi. Come on over here.
Okay.
Hey,
Hi.
this is a family affair. She's running my camera, and between her and Osborne, and this is Chad, the burner phone with a pause on it. We're getting a little bit better, and I appreciate the time. And we'll see you when next time.